Welcome to the Sex, Money, and Real Estate Podcast, the show for real estate couples about how to close more deals in the bedroom. My name is Bill Jameson.
And I'm Nancy Jameson.
And each week we deep dive into juicy, intentional, sexy conversations, sharing with you what it takes to create balance in your intimate relationships and your real estate business. Thank you so much for being here. Shall we begin?
Hey, baby.
I thought you were going to break out in song there for a second.
I felt a little bit like a song, actually. I could do a little song.
You never know what you're going to do over there.
I could do a song and then I could actually take a nap too.
Okay.
I'm starting to feel that way.
All right.
Mid-afternoon meditation coming on.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, hello.
Hello.
How you being today, babe?
I am feeling and being amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I've received maybe there's a little bit of magic, but I've received some feedback lately from our peer groups, our friends and family that we welcome feedback from around being present.
Okay.
And what that's made me aware of is that when I'm not present, I'm trying to multitask. My temper may be a little bit higher, my fuse a little bit shorter, and and it affects and relates to everything.
Mm-hmm.
My running and how I process things with you and the kids and all that. So I deserve to be more present.
Okay.
And so I have been doing this great app called Headspace, and it's teaching me how to meditate without all the guides. I have meditated, and I do meditate as a practice, but a lot of my meditations are guided meditations. And, I think it's a bit of a crutch. So it's time to take off the, what would you call them? The training wheels, I guess, and do something different.
Well, so that's interesting because you taught me how to meditate.
That's true.
I mean, 24 years ago, 24 years ago.
Yeah.
So have your meditations always been guided meditations?
No, they were unguided.
Because I feel like that's how you taught me.
Yes, they're unguided, and the techniques are very similar to what I learned 20 years ago. And this is just a little bit deeper practice. And I think I got in the habit of using guided meditations.
Yeah.
It became a habit as opposed to the, just the occasional, hey, let's check out what this guided meditation is for surrender or for, just pick the topic instead of letting, my mind pick the topic or not pick the topic. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
how
cool.
are you relating to the new one? To the new app? To Headspace?
Oh, Headspace is fantastic. I love it. I love the little reminders it puts up on the phone, and I love the process. You get to pick a male or female voice and go with the lesson from there, and they take it very slowly and 10-minute meditations, and then they work up from there with all the tools. So it's a bit guided as they teach you the tools along the way, and at the same time, I just think they're totally genius in the way that they do it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess that's magic.
Okay.
Some magic.
Sure.
And that's
I would say that's magic.
and that's how I'm being today too.
Evolving your meditative practice.
Yeah.
And you're being meditative. Is that?
Oh yeah.
that
So
accurate?
I'm feeling very present right now as we're going through and talking about what we're gonna do here. I was like, oh, I am gonna breathe a little bit, and so that was cool, and that's new, So it's great.
I appreciate that.
Yes. yes. How are you being, baby?
I am being awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that with me. So no, I feel great. It's beautiful outside, and this is the second week of our summer break, and just I feel very relaxed and for sure present with you. And I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about today's topic. I'm excited to spend this time with you. I love our podcasting time, and I'm ready to roll.
Awesome. Cool.
Yes.
Is there any other magic you would like to share today as we get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we start off every episode with magic, and Bill and I define magic as the ability to influence
Self,
ourselves,
others,
yeah,
and life in an empowering way.
mm-hmm.
Empowering being, the highlighted word there.
For sure. Because you could certainly influence people to do disempowering things.
Mm-hmm.
We are seeing that all
Or
over
yourself.
the world.
Yeah.
In this moment right now.
Yeah.
And so we choose to focus on the empowering things and the influence and the sprinkles and rainbows that we influence all over our lives. So my magic for this week is we just celebrated our anniversary, our wedding anniversary.
Ooh.
And so this year marked our 21st wedding anniversary. We've been married for 21 years, excuse me. And we've been together for 24.
Right.
And so the other wonderful uniqueness about our wedding anniversary is that our oldest son, Rex, was born
on our wedding anniversary.
Our 7th-year wedding anniversary. And so that's why we called this episode 7 Years and No Itch.
Yeah, one of the reasons.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. And so, because our 7th year, we were literally in the hospital giving birth. Oh my gosh, I was in labor for 18 hours.
Yes.
And that little guy was not so little, and he just decided to hang out there in the birth canal for a minute.
It's so nice in here.
It's so warm, Mama.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were watching. Oh my God, we brought the Pilates ball. Right, we bought the big Pilates ball because we thought that I was going to do some
bouncing.
Yeah, bouncing to move that little guy along, and then we created a playlist.
Yeah, on our what was? Oh, it was on our iPod. Yes, it was on the U2 iPod.
Yeah,
it was black and red. That's funny. Okay, cool.
So we created our playlist of all of our music that we were very inspired to listen to. All the music that we listened to over the belly with Rex, having headphones over the belly so we got to hear inside in utero. And so that was really beautiful. So we had, multiple hours of music. And
to this day, I still think that if one of those songs comes on, I think that he still has a little something for him. I could be projecting, but I feel like there's a little something in there where, like, well, maybe I heard this in Mama's belly.
I believe that too. I definitely believe that. I mean, I think that's one of the big reasons why he's a vegetarian is because of my crazy meat aversion.
Right, during that time,
any meat whatsoever. It couldn't even be in the house.
Yep.
Oh gosh, it was awful.
Yeah, vegetarian in a house full of carnivores. Where'd that come from, right? Yeah.
But I for sure think that translated into how he is today. And he's calm, and when the music like Coldplay comes on or any of those things. So I totally agree with that. And then basketball, our love of basketball. We were watching the finals, NBA finals, because our anniversary is on May 30th. So it was the NBA finals, and we're there watching it as I'm in mid push.
Yeah.
And so. Yeah, so
we had it all going on.
That was definitely really cool. So yes, I love that about our story, that uniqueness about Rex and being born on our anniversary,
on our 7-year anniversary.
Yep, it was super cool. So, and we just recorded a podcast with him where he shares his 14-year-old wisdom. So if you guys want to listen to what Rex has bestowed upon us, that's in a podcast called 14-Year-Old Wisdom.
Yep.
Happy birthday, Rex.
Yeah.
And so that all of that magic, I mean, I definitely think we've been watching the Michael Jordan series. That's been super magical, just to relive all of those years, because those were our early years.
Yeah.
The second three-peat was the early years of our relationship.
Those were fundamental years for us.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. What do you mean by fundamental years?
Well, we were getting to know each other. I mean, there's the building blocks of our relationship. A lot of them, although we have greater tools now, but that's when we were figuring each other out. Really, we had started dating, and we're dating, and working together, and all that kind of stuff, and. Yeah, we're figuring out, what pushes each other's buttons.
Yeah,
so
it was crazy. I was 24.
Yeah.
Ooh. how old were you? 26, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
26, 27.
Yeah. Woo. Those are some fun times. So all of those things are magical.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any highlights from the wedding that we wanted to share?
Well, I mean, it was cool because we were living in New York. We had the restaurant business going on, and we knew we wanted to, for several reasons, wanted to get married in Chicago, my hometown, and I had family that it would have been easier, just logistically easier to have your family travel, although it was bigger. Your family traveled
Those
than mine.
Italians.
Yes. Everybody came.
It was
And
great.
to have it in Chicago, and I'm not sure where the genius came from to have a wedding on a boat, but we ended up renting a boat and cruising Lake Michigan and fireworks, and it was just it was an amazing time, and it kept our count down too for how many people we invited, so that worked out as well.
We also, from my recollection and my experience, we got married in Chicago because we met in Chicago also.
Yeah.
It was a big part of it.
Yeah, I think that was a big part of it too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we rented that
the first lady of Chicago.
And then strolled out onto Lake Michigan. Again, it
Or
was
the lady.
Memorial Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got married, docked, and then we went through the locks and went out and sailed on Lake Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was small. We had 100 people. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, it was so great. Had open bar. And so Bill and I are still in the restaurant business.
At that point.
That point, yeah. And so we literally drank everything that was on that boat. It was open bar, and we drank the boat out.
Yeah.
We,
And all of our friends, because they're all in the restaurant business too.
Yeah, for sure.
And your Italian
and
family.
my Italian family.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So yes, it was amazing and quite memorable.
Mm-hmm.
We had gosh, that was so different then. We did shots of Jameson in our champagne glasses.
That's right.
As opposed to champagne.
Yeah. It was
I
great.
think we polished that bottle of Jameson off too.
Probably
by the way.
did. We probably did.
Yeah. Again,
And
very different times.
Very different times. And somehow, with all that food and all that booze, we walked off that boat still thirsty and hungry.
I didn't eat anything.
Right. Well, that's
We
what I'm
had
saying.
cake.
That's what I'm saying. It was all there, but we didn't actually partake in
Yeah.
too much of that
Yeah.
actually. And, still, and ended up ordering, our
Giordano's.
honeymoon night. We ordered Giordano's pizza at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah, we stayed at the Drake.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, it was so beautiful.
So yeah, super fun, super cool.
Yes.
It definitely feels, doesn't feel like 21 years. It feels like a year, it just doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel like 21 years ago to me.
No. And despite that, we've definitely been through a lot of iterations and many, many changes. And I feel like that's really where this conversation is going is, just sharing. Well, that's my intention anyway. So maybe before we get started, I'd like to set the space with some intentions.
Sure. I mean,
Cool.
I would love, I think part of my intention has been shared already that, with the speaking to the marriage and, a little bit how we've gone through our process a little bit with the, being in Chicago and sharing the story and that kind of thing. So that's cool. And, other intentions.
Well, my intention is to share really in full transparency as whatever it is that we talk about today or the questions, just the evolution and the iterations of the commitment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long-term commitment.
Right. So
our marriage. So,
and that's where the conversation came from. We were, we were hanging out, thinking about what to talk about on today's episode. And then we're like, well, we have been talking about the marriage a lot, not a lot, but, reflecting and stuff.
Yeah, reflecting. I mean, my gosh.
And
it's beautiful.
Yeah. And just to kind of share. And then I was like, well, what are some of those intimacy or, a few of those tougher questions that are out there that get asked of couples, and I consulted old man Google,
yes,
the internets for to see what was out there. And so I put a few things together here for us to look at and we can answer if we feel like it's appropriate and not if not. and be as transparent as possible.
Okay.
So
Yeah, there may be, I don't know what these questions are that you're going to ask me, or really. So I may want to say, I need to meditate on this, but I'll do my best.
Or you can go through and ask me. I mean, we just go through and grab a couple of questions here out of the list, but I am going to start with one that I did not find on the internet.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you, what does the 7 years and no itch mean to you?
So when I thought about that title, I think about the 7-year itch. And so traditionally when I think of 7-year itch, that's when folks that have been married for 7 years typically get that bug, like that honeymoon stage is over, or they're experiencing crazy breakdowns and arguments and disagreements in their marriage, and like
infidelities.
Yeah,
it could be any kind of infidelity, right? It could be sexual, of course, or it could be emotional infidelity, or what's another kind of infidelity?
I don't know. Where are you going with this?
I don't know. We're just talking about 7 years and no itch.
So
when you get the itch. Yes.
And so when you get the itch, to me, it means that you're at a impasse, basically. And it's time to, you either divert and get divorced, or you divert and then, like, as you were just saying, go down the infidelity path. I mean, because most marriages are traditionally monogamous. And so I feel like that's where that came from. And so, if you're at that point, I mean, a lot of folks divorce, and so we were seeing that, we were experiencing that, where we had, I mean, so most of our friends had babies right away. And so we are literally 10 years into the relationship, and we're just now having the conversation about having a kid. Like, we had a conversation about having a kid because after we got married, we got pregnant accidentally, because I had just gone off the pill because I was going to take a break because I had been on the pill for, at that point, probably 10 years. And so I was taking a break, and then we got pregnant, and we didn't know we were pregnant. And then all of a sudden we were having a miscarriage. I was having a miscarriage. And that's actually how I found out that I was pregnant, as I was having this miscarriage. So that was when I was 29, I think, 28.
Yeah.
Well, when did we get? So I got married.
27. Yes,
27.
28,
So I was 28.
Yeah,
it was right around my 28th birthday. Yay! Happy birthday to me. So here we are having this miscarriage as we're finding out that we're pregnant, and then that was the only time that we had the conversation about. I remember anyway about having kids, until we actually had the conversation about having kids. Like, once I left Eatsy's, that was in 2005. And then I remember somebody, when we were at the opening of the restaurant, somebody was like, hey, you opened the restaurant. Now what are you going to do? I was like, oh, I guess it's time to have a baby. Most people are like, hey, it's time to go to Disneyland. And here I'm like, hey, it's time to have a baby.
Well, and we didn't know if we wanted to have kids or not. That's the thing.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, that was a conversation.
Yeah.
And it was mostly like, no, we're going to hang out. So, so I would say our maturity was not that you have to be mature, obviously, to have kids, but we were just like not even open to, really the possibility of it for a long time.
Yeah, I think we knew that we weren't ready to have a kid.
Yeah.
Like, we were still in the phase of figuring ourselves out and figuring out each other as a couple.
Yeah.
And there was no way that we wanted to bring a baby in. Yeah.
And we also knew that we wanted to travel a little bit and hang out with each other, and living in New York City and downtown Chicago and all that kind of stuff, and then all of our trips in between. We knew we wanted to get some of that stuff in.
Yeah.
If there was ever the possibility of having kids, to get a few of those trips in ahead of time, because we knew that the kids would change the scope of things,
the dynamic, for sure. Yeah.
So, and again, and still, it wasn't like a large conversation. Like, we were never that couple that was just always dreamed about that one day when we have kids or whatever. It was like that one day when we fly to St. Martin, or whatever. So, yeah. And yet we got there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we got pregnant immediately.
Yeah. We were like, for you, it was kind of between jobs and and that kind of thing. You were going to take some time off, and
Yep.
as soon as you stopped working that 90 or 100 hours a week or whatever it was, and relaxed, and not that we were trying before that really to get pregnant, but we got pregnant immediately.
Yeah.
Like it was
like
really
the first,
crazy.
It was like the first time we made love.
Yeah.
I feel like, honestly, like we talked about it and then it was like, okay, boom, boop, here's Rex.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was like that first conversation. So by the time we were at this conversation, it's 10 years into our relationship, and either most of our friends are divorced or most of our friends were on their way. A lot of them had kids immediately. And so if they were together, then it was just a different conversation about their marriage. And so, yeah, but it was interesting. So we knew that commitment was really important to us. And so, I mean, beyond that, 7 years. And so it was just different. It was a different conversation. We had literally decided to remain committed. I mean, at that moment, I think it was definitely an interesting space for us. That was really like the first time that I feel like we both went into the personal development. You're going to have to help me remember on this, like the personal development phase where we were really working on ourselves both, simultaneously, whether it was we were doing like I remember doing Imago, that book by Dr. Hendricks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was Imago therapy to where we were talking about mirroring and matching and just increasing our communication.
Yes.
And then, of course, 7 Habits. And so I feel like that was definitely a time that we were syncing up, and we knew that there were some things, just some things that we were moving through that we wanted to elevate in our relationship.
Right.
And we wanted to do that together. I mean, I don't
really ever remember a time. Well, I do, where, you said you wanted, there was a phase in our development as a collective where it felt like maybe you were going one direction and I was going the other. And what that really reminds me of is when we were really getting ready to, you were getting ready to go deeper and you were going deeper, and whatever was going on in me and, my psyche, I was not having it in that moment. And so we hung out there for a little while, and it was not the most comfortable year or two for sure. And, we weren't connecting a lot sexually or otherwise. And we had that conversation.
What conversation?
That conversation, like shit or get off the pot. You had it with me. And ultimately, like the 7-year itch, this is a few years later, but like that 7-year itch.
Yeah, this is probably like year 9, I guess you're talking about.
Yeah. There was something in my unconscious, or there was enough maturity in my conversation where I was like, no, I'm committed to this relationship, and I'm committed to you. And, this is the path. I surrender. I surrender. And got back into more personal development. And we had some other personal development stuff in between, and, programs and things like that we had done.
Yep.
And yet, at that moment, I guess, for like a year or two, I guess, maybe it was like a year or so, I don't know. I just wasn't having it.
Yeah. So if you're talking about like, what is that, like 2010, 2011?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was right in the middle of the bankruptcy. That was in the middle of you, I'm finger quoting here, going back to work, and maybe like there was some emotional baggage around feeling like you took a step back or something like that.
Newish to being a father.
Oh yeah. I mean, the boys were only, at that point, so it was 2006 and 7, they were born. So they were 3 and 4, maybe.
And that's the thing, there's, I've always had, and I'm working through, especially right now, that capacity conversation, and thinking that I had to do more, where, I'm understanding that really just being more is the doing more. So, but yeah, so it always felt like doing more in that moment. And, I just wasn't on board, baby. I wasn't on board. Got on board. Took a minute. took a team too. There was a bunch of other people that were like, "Come on, Bill,
Mm-hmm.
you can do something different. You can play for a greater version of yourself than you are right now." And so I appreciate it so much
Mm-hmm.
that you enlisted some folks.
Yeah, well, it does. It definitely takes a community, and we talk about that a lot. The immunity is in the community,
Right.
and I think that that's one of the things that, well, what I'm clear about is that is one of the main ingredients to the evolution of our relationship is a community and having a team surround you, and it takes a village to raise a baby and a community to raise your wife.
Right.
I believe is what our mentor says.
Yeah.
And so what that means is that it takes a community obviously to raise your husband too. So it's a group effort that it's not designed to do it alone in any capacity.
No.
None of it is.
No. And really, if you think about it, and I know we've talked about some questions here to get into, and yet I'm digging on the path right now. Mm-hmm. So I guess what I was really leading up to, baby, mm-hmm. was, around the, it takes a community or it takes a village, is that, when you sit there and think that you can solve your problems from the same level that you created them, mm-hmm. is that might be another definition of insanity. Mm-hmm. Doing the same thing over and over again, mm-hmm. expecting a different. Well, when you're in that swirl, or you're in the throes of a breakdown, and it could be just you or you and your partner in a relationship, you can't necessarily, and more than likely not, solve it or fix it or have that breakthrough around it without feedback from people who have more experience or, mm-hmm. more experience than you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, education, experience, life experience, whatever it is. And I feel like that's one of the main things that we learned about when we got into the coaching relationship, the mentor relationship with, our mentor now, his name is Day Adioba at the Your Day Balance Game, or what we call the playground. And so that was the big thing. Like, we had a conversation in Hawaii about, wouldn't it be great to have a group of conscious couples? Mm-hmm. And I remember literally being in the ocean in Hawaii,
I remember that
and going,
vividly.
Wouldn't it be great if we had a group of conscious couples that were all, essentially playing for greatness, playing for amazing, outstanding, juicy, sexy, intimate relationships, financial freedom, financial abundance, and just fantastic families that stayed together.
That's so hilarious. If you hadn't reminded me of that,
yeah,
I don't know if I remembered that. But now that you've I remember you were on my left. We were in the water.
Yep.
I remember that conversation vividly now.
Yep.
Actually, that's amazing.
And so, not 3 years later, here we are. And we're obviously we joined the gym because we were working out and working towards doing a Tough Mudder mm-hmm. race. Well, it's not really a race. It's just a Tough Mudder. You guys know what a Tough Mudder is. Google it. So so we're there, and here we are 9 years later. And so that's exactly the community that we're in, is a conscious community with couples and conscious singles. And it's a beautiful testament to our creation and our evolution, our desire to evolve our relationship into exactly what it is that we were playing for.
Yes.
And so that's one of the things that he taught us, was that you can't do it alone, that it's not meant to be, just this iteration of you solve all of my problems or you take care of all of my wants and needs and desires, that it does take a team. So
it takes a team. Otherwise you're siloed. You think that you're special, and you don't really realize that everybody, I'm going to say this generally and say everybody's going through the same things you are. Mm-hmm. You're not having anything special going on that is unique, that has never happened to anybody else. Mm-hmm. The details may be a little different, but the essence, it still always breaks down to a few different levels of essence. Mm-hmm. And you're not, you get so caught up in being right that, or making yourself right, or making it mean something that, you can't see the forest for the trees. And so having a team that can give you valuable impactful, transparent feedback on where you're coming from, and you too being open and surrender to it, and you more than likely will be if you're gonna, hang out with some like-minded people, then you will have breakthroughs in your relationship. It's the same thing with the financial planner. You go to, you don't sit there. Most people do not try to get rich on their own.
Yeah.
They
seek,
impossible. You seek the advice of a financial advisor or a financial group.
Yeah, coach. Yep, absolutely.
Or a coach, right?
And, yes, and so I think that was a big pivotal point for us in the relationship. 7 years, 9 years, wherever. I mean, really, so 7 years. Yeah, it was about 9 years. I mean, we really started getting into coaching relationships. Like we did. We had a relationship coach. We had a wealth coach.
Right.
We had a business coach. And then what was we each had trainers. We each had personal trainers. So now we have health coaches.
So we literally went from having no coaches to having a coach for many areas in our life.
Almost every wheel of our life.
Yeah.
I mean, really we didn't have like parent coaches, but we read a lot.
We did read a lot.
We read a lot. Yeah.
And we have very smart parents.
We do. So that's fascinating.
So they were our coaches, right?
So that's really fascinating. All right. Neat. That's amazing how our conversation started from let's ask each other a couple of questions based on reflecting on the marriage, and then here we are. I mean, we haven't even talked about this portion of the marriage yet, so we're reflecting live for you right now.
Yeah, how it was and what's kind of gotten us, to this point. But there's a lot more to share around this. So look for, look for the next another recording in the next week or two that is where we do play a little more question and answer with some juicy and intimate questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great.
And it'd be really great. I have a few questions here that have been, essentially researched, right? I looked around and found some what I thought were provocative questions. And I would really love anybody listening to this right now to hit us back with a couple of questions that you want answered. We're open to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we don't have to say where the question came from, but if there's something that you want to that you have a question about around our relationship or around real estate or money,
money or your relationship. How would we handle something? That would be really great because we've definitely been through it.
Yeah, I would love to hear a few questions.
Well, and that's the purpose of the podcast too, is to leverage our knowledge and experience and all of the teachings and all the iterations of us, so that we can then provide the love and share the love with you guys. Is because juicy relationships can be had. That's the thing. That's the myth, that you can't have a juicy relationship and a successful business. Yeah. I'm here to tell you that's not true. You can have it all.
And it can be juicy around all your relationships. Around yes, it can be juicy around sex. It can be juicy around money. It can be juicy around real estate and family and friends and everywhere.
Yep, absolutely. With God. I mean, my goodness, just have this beautiful relationship. Yeah. So it's for sure in all wheels. Absolutely.
Cool. Well, that was not the direction I thought this was going to go, and yet
even better.
I think that was a super fun, organic conversation. So thank you for hanging out and flowing with me, baby.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I do. I flow.
We'll plan on getting back in some of this question and answer in the next week or two as we get a few listener requests.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
we'll circle back.
Yes. So before you go, we do want to let you know that we have started a private Facebook group. It's called Sex, Money, and Real Estate Group. So you'll just be able to search Sex, Money, Real Estate. It'll pop up
on Facebook.
And so request to join. We do, ask a couple of questions, make sure that we get the appropriate people in there. No haters. Well, yeah, no haters. It's all love, because we share, even more in there, tools, experiences, real estate tips, how we cultivated, our relationship, and the documents that we use, and the accountability structures, like all of it. It's all in there. So it's free for now, won't be free for long. So just get in there while the going is good, and hopefully we'll see you there.
All right. Love goes out to y'all.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye.
Wow, what a show. Thank you so much for listening. And if you're inspired, we ask that you share the podcast with one person and subscribe and follow the show. I'm Bill Jameson.
And I'm Nancy Jameson.
And remember, it's
a great life. Quick note about the Sex, Money, and Real Estate podcast. We are not doctors or licensed therapists. We are a joyous, abundant, and mature couple passionately sharing our story of growth around sex, money, and real estate. Our thoughts, opinions, and beliefs are our own, so please consult your doctor, healthcare provider, or your broker regarding any questions or issues you have related to your physical or mental health or specific state laws regarding your real estate business.